It's about two people coming from very different worlds in their culture, in their sociology, in their economics, in their geography, and coming together, uniting as one united couple, two as one, for a period of 57 years, after just one single incident, one date, as it were, which was a blind date. And from that point on, for the two of us, there was no other. And that went on, it's still going on, it's now. And during that time, we've had to fend off some catastrophic events that have befallen both of us. And at the same time, our unity is bent, but it's not broken. It still exists. I know when I get out to the Mennonite village, to the Alzheimer's facility, when a friend will drive me out now, I can relate somewhat to my wife. I try to relate to my wife, and I sense that there is something going on between us, although with an Alzheimer's or dementia patient, you never know what's going on inside the head, inside the brain. But I do feel a sense of still unity between us. So this book is basically that journey when we first met in 1953 until the period now. And I'd like to read a couple of sections from the beginning of the book which will fill in that general template and make it more specific, if I may. I do. In so saying, I raised my leg, stomped and shattered the glass from which Ginny and I had just sipped the wine of our wedded unity. Now, I sit in a wheelchair, my body broken and smashed in an horrific motor vehicle accident, and Ginny's brain is IV'd over by Alzheimer's. We face each other in wheelchairs. She doesn't recognize me, nor remember that bright, cold day at the end of January, 55 years ago. I wrote that for the flap of the book. And then in my preface I try to become more specific as to the nature of the story. I say, my memories are full. In more than 70 years, I've passed by many people. I've interacted with some, formed relationships and friendships with some, separated from some, lost some. But memories are not memoir. They're too voluminous and scattered. For this memoir, I've funneled my memories into one thematic focus, my meeting and unifying with my wife Ginny for more than half a century, her malevolent illness and loss of her person and separation from me, and my physically destructive accident that forever changed my life. Yet with both her disappearance and my inability to reappear as I once was, I sense a glimmer, the most minuscule sliver of light, as we try to recapture what once was. Love between us. And as I understand it, I know this is a very personal story, and as I practiced my readings, it got to me quite a bit. It's very emotional, but at the same time, I sense from people I've spoken with that there is a universality in the particularlessness of the specificity of the story, that other people, beside the children who I was writing it for, can find some areas to resonate with. And I hate to say it because it's so sentimentalized, but I would say unabashedly, I think this is a love story. And it's a love story that carries its meaning to others beside just Ginny and myself. I would like to say a little bit about how the book is divided. I mentioned the poems. All of the poems are in a third section of the book. In the second section of the book are some what I call vignettes, little pieces of life in my formative years and in my family's formative years. And that arrangement and some of the pictures that are in the book, including the cover picture that is on the book, I owe to my daughter-in-law, Amelia Ann Armstrong, who was a photographer in her own right, and together we laid out the structure of the book and where pictures would go and where text would go, and the three different sections of the book. So I want to acknowledge her here, as I also do in the book. And all of my dudes are here too. That is a name, at one point in a letter that I read, I was talking about my relationship with my wife and what I should do, and in the letter I say, Joel hugged me and say, that's up to you, dude. I reminded him I was his father, not just a dude. But I guess to me, he's one of my dudes, and I have a couple of others who are there too. My twin sons, who you may recognize in that picture a long time ago. Joshua, stroking his wife's head, and Jeremy standing behind Joel, my twin sons. And I think Aaron is here too. Yep. And somewhere back there is one of my older sons, Aaron. So that's part of the Wyman family that you see in the pictures. And originally, that's the audience I had for this book. And in one of the writing projects that I was engaged in for a writing class from Lynn Benton that I took, Writer's Workroom, taught by Lil Aarons, I wrote something called Two Different Worlds, as kind of a prologue to the book for my children, describing the differences between my wife and myself. But then the people in the class said, go further, I want to hear more. So I started talking about my first years with her at Indiana University, and our dating and what went on after that, and they said, more. Tell us more, they're interested. And I thought to myself, why would people who I don't know be interested in what I'm writing for my children? So I thought there must be some kind of, as I said before, universality or some kind of resonance in the human condition that people can recognize. And so that was 2 years ago. And I've been writing the book since then, and I think we finished in March. Amelia made it camera ready for publication this past March. Writing is a bit slow, and I'll have to explain this instrument and then go on. This is known as a Chewy tube. It's in the adaptive instrument catalogs. It basically is a therapeutic instrument for children and adults to learn to bite and to chew, because it's made of hard rubber. My therapist suggested it would be an excellent device because it is tea-like to turn pages with, and not having a Kindle or wanting to buy one, liking the feel of a book, I hopped on it. This turns the pages very well. But I also found that it types very well. I can't extend my fingers. Unfortunately, I can't do the one extension that I always wanted. But I have, this is my prosthetic. I can type with this. So I have my hand that works more than this one does, and I have my finger, and I have a computer or microprocessor key. And so I go from key to key to key, which is great if you want to really think about what you're saying. Not so great if your brain is moving on and on and on, and you can't catch up to it. But that's what this is, and you might see me turning the pages, which I'll do right now. I'd like to go into the ending of the first chapter of the book, where I have been a caregiver with my son Joel. Joel left his job in Denver and came to live with me with his daughter. not